Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair aboard the Starship Liberty. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. His crew was busy with their daily tasks. Jake was reading reports from Earth when suddenly the communication system made a loud beeping sound. "Captain, we're getting a strange signal," said Lieutenant Mary Foster from her station. She looked confused as she stared at her screen. "It's coming from the Andromeda sector." Jake stood up and walked over to her. The Andromeda sector was far from human space. Very few ships went there. "What kind of signal is it?" Mary pressed some buttons on her control panel. "It's a distress call, sir, but it's not from humans. The language is different." Dr. Lisa Park, the ship's medical officer, looked up from her work. "Different how?" "The computer is trying to translate it now," Mary said. She waited a moment. Then her eyes went wide. "Captain, you need to hear this." Jake nodded. "Put it on the main speakers." A voice filled the bridge. It sounded sad and desperate. The words were strange, but the computer was changing them into English as the message played. "To all beings in the galaxy," the voice said, "this is the Zahirian Empire. We are dying. Terrible sickness has taken our worlds. Our people are disappearing. We have tried everything. Our medicine cannot stop it. Our technology cannot fight it. We ask for help from anyone who can hear this message. Please, if you have knowledge of disease or healing, come to us. Time is running out." The message ended. The bridge was very quiet. Jake's crew looked at each other with surprise. Tony Blake, the ship's engineer, was the first to speak. "Did they just say Zahirian Empire?" Jake nodded slowly. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the Zahirians. They were one of the oldest and most powerful races in space. They had ruled the Andromeda sector for thousands of years. They had amazing technology and great cities made of crystal, but the Zahirians had always looked down on other races. They thought they were better than everyone else. Humans were especially low in their opinion. They called humans primitive creatures and barely evolved animals. When human colonies had been attacked by pirates or other dangers, the Zephyrians had never helped. They said humans were too weak to deserve their attention. "Why would they ask us for help?" asked Sam Collins, the ship science officer. "They hate humans." Dr. Park crossed her arms. "Maybe they're asking everyone, not just us." Jake walked back to his command chair. He thought about the message. The voice had sounded truly afraid. Fear was something all living beings shared, no matter how advanced they were. "Sir," said Lieutenant Nick Davis from the weapon station. "What are your orders?" Jake looked around at his crew. These were good people. They had joined the space service to explore and help others, but he also knew they remembered how the Zahirians had treated humans. "What do you all think?" Jake asked. "Should we respond?" Tony shook his head. "Captain, with respect, why should we help them? When the colony on New Boston was attacked, we begged them for help. They didn't even answer our calls." "That's right," said Mary. "My brother was on New Boston. He almost died because they wouldn't share their medical technology with us." Dr. Park stood up. "But this sounds different. They said their people are disappearing. That sounds like something terrible." Sam looked at his computer screen. "The Andromeda sector is 3 weeks away at maximum speed. If we go, we'll use a lot of fuel." Jake listened to his crew talk. He understood their feelings. The Zahirians had been cruel To humans for many years, they had refused to trade with human worlds. They had blocked humans from entering certain parts of space. Some Zapparan leaders had even said that humans should not be allowed to travel between the stars. But Jake also thought about his daughter, Emma, back on Earth. She was only 8 years old. He wanted her to grow up in a galaxy where people helped each other. He wanted her to be proud of her father and of humanity. How many Zapparans are there in their empire? Jake asked Sam. Sam checked his computer. According to our records, about 50 billion across 200 worlds. Jake was quiet for a moment. 50 billion lives. That was more people than lived on Earth. If they were really dying from some kind of sickness, it would be the worst disaster in galactic history. Captain, said Dr. Park softly, if they're asking for help from everyone, including humans, then they must be really desperate. The Zapparans are too proud to ask for help unless they truly need it. Tony frowned. Or maybe it's a trap. A trap for what? Asked Mary. We don't have anything they want. They're much more advanced than us. Jake stood up and walked to the main screen. It showed the stars outside their ship. Somewhere far away, an entire civilization was crying for help. He thought about what kind of person he wanted to be. He thought about what kind of species he wanted humans to be. We're going, Jake said, finally. Course for the Andromeda sector. Nick looked surprised. Sir, are you sure? Jake turned to face his crew. Yes, I'm sure. If we don't help people when they need it, then we're no better than the worst parts of this galaxy. Maybe the Zapparians have been cruel to us, but that doesn't mean we should be cruel to them. Mary started working at her station. Of course, said Captain. It will take us 21 days to reach Xirian space. At Dr. Park, Jake said, start reading everything we have about diseases and alien biology. If this sickness is as bad as they say, we'll need to be ready. Dr. Park nodded. Yes, sir. As the Liberty turned toward the Andromeda sector, Jake hoped they were making the right choice. He had no idea that this decision would change not just his life but the future of both humans and Zapparians forever. 3 weeks later, the Liberty dropped out of faster than light travel at the edge of Zapparian space. What Jake and his crew saw made them gasp in shock. The Zapparian home world of Aval had always been famous. Across the galaxy, stories told of crystal cities that reached into the clouds and floating platforms that danced in the sky. The planet was supposed to glow with a soft blue light from all the advanced technology, but now Aval looked dark and empty. The great crystal spires were dim. No ships moved around the planet. No signals came from the surface. My God, whispered Dr. Park. What happened here? Sam was scanning the planet with the ship's sensors. I'm detecting very few life signs, Captain. Maybe a few million people, but this planet used to have billion. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Any ships in the area? Mary checked her screens. Yes, sir. I count about 30 Zapparian warships in orbit, but they're not moving. They're just floating there. Try to contact them, Jake ordered. Mary sent out a communication signal. After a few minutes, a response came back. The voice was weak and tired. Unknown ship. This is General Alex Ross of the Zapparian Defense Fleet. Please identify yourself. Jake stepped forward. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human starship Liberty. We received your distress call and came to help. There was a long Pause, then General Ross spoke again, and Jake could hear surprise in his voice. You came to help us. You are humans. Yes, we are, Jake said. We want to help. If we can. Another pause, Captain. Morrison, I will send you landing coordinates. Please come to the palace. Queen Lyra wishes to speak with you. Jake looked at his crew. They all seemed amazed. Queen Lyra was the ruler of the entire Zephyrian Empire. No human had ever been allowed to meet her before. We'll be right down, Jake said. Liberty landed on a platform near the royal palace. As Jake, Dr. Park, and Tony stepped out of their ship, they were shocked by what they saw. The great Crystal City was almost empty. Buildings that should have been full of light were dark. The few Zafrans they saw looked sick and weak. General Ross met them at the landing platform. He was tall like all Zafrans, with blue skin and large eyes, but he looked very tired. His skin was pale and he moved slowly. Captain Morrison, he said, I must admit I never thought I would see the day when humans would come to help us. Jake looked around at the empty city. General, what happened here? Ross' face became very sad. The void sickness. It started 6 months ago on the outer worlds. We thought it was just a normal disease at first, but it spreads so fast, and it doesn't just kill people. It makes them disappear. Asked Dr. Park. Come, said Ross. The Queen will explain everything. They walked through the palace halls. Walls were made of beautiful crystal, but now they were dim and cracked. Everywhere Jake looked, he saw signs that this place had once been magnificent. They entered a great throne room. At the far end, sitting on a throne made of glowing blue crystal, was Queen Lyra. Jake had seen pictures of her before, but seeing her in person was different. She was beautiful in the way that all Zephyrians were, with graceful features and skin that seemed to glow with inner light, but now that glow was very weak. Her skin was pale, almost gray. Her eyes, which should have been bright blue, looked tired and sad. Captain Morrison, she said, and her voice was soft and musical, even though she sounded weak. You have traveled very far to reach us. Jake walked closer to the throne. He noticed that his crew stayed back, but he felt no fear. Your Majesty, we came as soon as we could. Queen Lyra studied him with her large eyes. Why, my people have not been kind to yours. We have called you primitive. We have refused to help when your colonies were in danger. Why do you help us now? Jake thought for a moment. Because it's the right thing to do, Your Majesty. When someone is dying, you help them. It doesn't matter who they are or what they've done before. The Queen's eyes showed surprise. She was quiet for a long time, just looking at Jake. Finally, she spoke again. The void sickness is not like any disease we have seen before, she said. It attacks our life force directly. Our people don't just die, they fade away completely. Their bodies become empty shells, and then even those disappear. Dr. Park stepped forward. Your Majesty, may I ask some questions about the symptoms? Queen Lyra nodded. Please, Dr. Park, we need all the help we can get. How does it spread? Dr. Park asked. General Ross answered. It seems to jump from person to person, but not through air or touch. We think it travels through our mental connections. All Zafrans are linked telepathically, and the disease uses those links to spread. Have you tried cutting off the mental connections? Asked Tony. Yes, said the Queen sadly. But when we do that, we become very weak. Our technology needs our mental Power to work, our ships, our cities. Everything depends on our telepathic abilities. Jake looked around the throne room. Now he understood why everything looked so dim. The Zapparans had to choose between staying connected and risking the disease or cutting the connections and losing their technology. Your Majesty, said Dr. Park, have you found anything that slows down the disease? Nothing, Queen Lyra said. Our best scientists have tried everything. The disease seems to target something that is special to our species alone. No other race has been affected. How long do you have? Jake asked quietly. Queen looked down at her hands. Jake could see that they were shaking slightly. I am showing the first signs of the sickness. Most of our scientists think I have perhaps 1 month left. The rest of our people, maybe 6 months, before the last of us fades away. Jake felt his heart break. This proud, ancient civilization was dying, and there seemed to be nothing anyone could do to stop it. We will do everything we can to help, Jake said. Dr. Park is one of the best medical officers in the human fleet. If there's an answer, she'll find it. Queen Lyra looked at him again with those tired eyes. Captain Morrison, why do you care so much? You could have ignored our call for help. Most species did. Jake thought of his daughter Emma back on Earth. He thought of all the children of both species who deserved a future. Because, Your Majesty, he said, helping others is what makes us who we are. If we stop helping, we stop being human. For the first time since they had arrived, Queen Lyra smiled slightly. Perhaps, she said softly, we have been wrong about your species, Captain Morrison. Dr. Park worked day and night in the laboratory that Queen Lyra had given her. The Zephyrian scientists shared all their research, but nothing they had tried worked. The void sickness was unlike any disease Dr. Park had ever seen. It's not really a disease at all, she told Jake on the third day. They were standing in the lab looking at samples under a powerful microscope. It's more like something is eating their life force directly. Jake watched as Dr. Park showed him the samples. What do you mean? Look at this, she said, pointing to the screen. This is a healthy Zephyrian blood cell. See how it glows? That's their life energy. Now, look at this sample from someone with the void sickness. Jake looked at the second sample. The cells were dark and empty. They looked dead, but in a strange way, like something had been pulled out of them. It's like someone took away the most important part of who they are, Dr. Park said quietly. Sam Collins walked into the lab carrying a data pad. Doctor, I've been studying the pattern of how the disease spreads. I think I found something important. Dr. Park looked up from her microscope. What is it? The disease started on 3 different worlds at exactly the same time. Sam said, that's not natural. Someone or something caused this to happen. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. You mean someone did this on purpose? I think so, Captain Sam said. And I think I know who. He showed them his data pad. On the screen was information about a group called the Pure Zephyrians. Jake had never heard of them before. They're a secret group that believes the Zephyrian race has become weak. Sam explained. They think mixing with other species and being peaceful has made their people soft. They want to bring back the old days when Zapparans conquered other worlds. Dr. Park frowned. But why would they kill their own people? Because they think most modern Zahirians are not pure enough. Sam said, they believe that only the Strongest should survive, they created this disease to kill everyone they see. As weak Jake felt sick, they're trying to destroy their own civilization. The worst part is, Sam continued, I think the disease was supposed to stop after killing the people they didn't like, but something went wrong. Now it's killing everyone. Dr. Park sat down heavily in a chair. That explains why their medicine can't stop it. The disease was made by Zaffrans who knew exactly how their bodies work. Jake walked to the window and looked out at the dying city. In the distance he could see Queen Lyra's palace. She was getting weaker every day. Soon she would be gone, and with her the last hope for peace in this part of the galaxy. There has to be something we can do, he said. Dr. Park was quiet for a long time. Then she stood up suddenly. Wait, Jake, come here. I want to try something. She took a sample of Jake's blood and put it under the microscope next to a sample from a sick Zapperian. She mixed them together and watched what happened. At first nothing changed, but then slowly something amazing happened. The dark Zaffiran cells began to glow again, not as bright as healthy Zaffiran cells, but they were definitely getting better. Oh my God, Dr. Park whispered. Jake, look at this. Jake looked at the screen. What's happening? Your blood is fighting the disease, Dr. Park said, her voice filled with excitement. Human blood has something in it that can attack the void sickness. Sam came over to look. How is that possible? Dr. Park was thinking fast, her mind racing through possibilities. Humans have survived thousands of diseases on Earth. Our immune systems are incredibly strong because we had to fight so many different sicknesses. We must make something that can destroy the thing that causes the void sickness. Jake felt hope for the first time in days. So we can cure them. Dr. Park's excitement faded. Maybe, but there's a problem. The cure has to come from living human blood. I can't make it in a laboratory. And she paused, looking very worried. And what? Jake asked. The amount of this special substance that one human makes is very small. To cure one Zapperian, I would need all the blood from one human body. Jake understood immediately. You mean the human would die? Dr. Park nodded sadly. Yes, to save one Zaphirian, one human would have to give their entire life force. It's not just giving blood, it's giving everything that makes you alive. The room became very quiet. Jake thought about what this meant. There were millions of Zapperians still alive, but only a few thousand humans in this part of space. Wait, said Sam, maybe we could use the cure from one human to make more in the laboratory. Dr. Park shook her head. I already thought of that. The substance breaks down immediately after the human dies. You can't store it or copy it. Jake walked to the window again. Outside, he could see Zaffiran children playing in a park. They looked thin and weak, but they were still laughing and running around. They didn't know that they were all going to die soon. How long would it take? Jake asked quietly. How long would what take? Dr. Park replied. The procedure. How long would it take to transfer the cure from a human to a Zapperian? Dr. Park looked at him with alarm. Jake, you can't be thinking what I think you're thinking. How long? Jake asked again. About 6 hours, Dr. Park said slowly. The human would have to stay conscious the whole time so we could monitor their life signs. It would be very painful. Jake thought about Queen Liara sitting alone in her palace, getting weaker every day. He thought about General Ross, who had been so surprised that humans would come to help. He thought about all the Zahirian children who would never grow up. Then he thought about his daughter, Emma, back on Earth. What would she think of her father? Would she be proud that he saved lives, or angry that he left her alone? Jake, Dr. Park said, putting her hand on his shoulder. Even if someone was willing to make the sacrifice, we could only save one person out of millions. Jake turned to face her. But if we save the right person, maybe they could help us find another way. Who do you mean? Sam asked. Queen Lyra, Jake said. She's the most intelligent person on their home world. If anyone can find a way to make the cure work for more people, it's her. Dr. Park looked very sad. Jake, you're talking about giving your life, maybe, Jake said. But if I don't, everyone here dies anyway. At least this way there's a chance. He walked toward the door of the laboratory. I'm going to talk to Queen Lyra. I want to tell her what we found. Jake, wait, Dr. Park called after him. You don't have to decide right now. Let me keep working. Maybe I can find another way. Jake stopped at the door and turned around. Keep working, doctor. But start preparing for the procedure, too, just in case. As Jake left the laboratory, Dr. Park and Sam looked at each other with worry. They both knew Jake well enough to recognize the look in his eyes. He had already made his decision. Jake found Queen Lyra in her private garden behind the palace. She was sitting on a stone bench looking at flowers that were slowly dying like everything else on Avil. The plants were losing their life force. Your Majesty, Jake said softly as he approached. Queen Lyra looked up. Her skin was even paler than before, and Jake could see that she was having trouble breathing. Captain Morrison, she said with a weak smile, have you and Dr. Park discovered anything? Jake sat down beside her on the bench. Yes, we have, but you're not going to like what I have to tell you. Queen Lyra turned to face him. Please, tell me everything. Jake explained what Dr. Park had found. He told her about the human immune system and how it could fight the void sickness. He explained that the cure existed, but at a terrible cost. When he finished talking, Queen Lyra was quiet for a long time. She stared at the dying flowers and didn't say anything. I cannot accept this, she finally said. I cannot ask a human to die for me. You're not asking, Jake said gently. I'm offering. Queen Lyra looked at him with her large, sad eyes. Why would you give your life for someone who has been cruel to your people? Jake thought about how to answer. Your Majesty, can I tell you about my daughter? Queen Lyra nodded. Her name is Emma. She's 8 years old. She lives on Earth with her mother. Jake's voice became soft as he talked about his daughter. Every night before she goes to sleep, she asks me to tell her stories about the stars. She wants to know about all the different people who live out here. She sounds like a wonderful child. Queen Lyra said she is, and she always asks me the same question at the end of every story. She asks, Daddy, are the star people good or bad? And I always tell her the same thing. What do you tell her? I tell her that most people in the galaxy are good. They want to help each other and live in peace. I tell her that sometimes good people do bad things, but that doesn't make them bad people forever. Queen Lyra was listening carefully to every word. If I go home and tell Emma that I let an entire civilization die because they had been mean to humans before, what would she think of me? What would she think of humanity? Queen Lyra's eyes filled with tears. She would think you were cruel, yes, and I don't want my daughter to grow up in a galaxy where people let each other die. Because of old arguments, I want her to be proud of humans. I want her to know that we help people even when it's hard. Queen Lyra wiped the tears from her eyes. Captain Morrison, if you do this thing, your daughter will grow up without a father. Jake felt pain in his chest when she said that. I know, but she'd grow up knowing that her father died trying to save 50 billion people. And maybe if you survive, you can help humans and Zapirians become friends. Then Emma will have a safer galaxy to explore when she grows up. Queen Lyra stood up from the bench and walked to a dying flower. She touched it gently with her finger. There is something I must tell you, she said, something that will make this even harder. What is it? When a Zephyrian receives the life force from another being, we become connected to them. I will feel everything you feel. During the procedure, I will see your memories and experience your emotions. It will be as painful for me as it is for you. Jake thought about this. Will you see my memories of Emma? Yes, then that's good. You'll understand why I'm doing this. Queen Lyra turned around to face him. Captain Morrison, I have lived for 300 years. I have seen the rise and fall of civilization. I have watched stars be born and die, but I have never met anyone like you. I'm not special, Your Majesty. Any human would do the same thing. No, she said firmly, that is not true. You are special, Captain Morrison, and that makes this decision even more difficult. They walked back toward the palace together. As they entered the great hall, they found Dr. Park waiting for them with General Ross and several other Zephyrian officials. Captain, Dr. Park said, I've been working on the procedure. I think I know how to make it work. What do you need me to do? Jake asked. Dr. Park looked very sad. Jake, once we start, there's no way to stop. Are you absolutely sure about this? Jake looked around the room at all the faces watching him. These were people from two different species who had never been friends before, but now they were all working together trying to save lives. I'm sure, he said. General Ross stepped forward. Captain Morrison, on behalf of all Zephyrians, I want to say something. We have been wrong about humans. We thought you were weak because you help others instead of conquering them. Now I see that helping others is the greatest strength anyone can have. Thank you, General, Jake said. Dr. Park led them to the medical room she had prepared. There were 2 beds side by side with many machines and tubes connecting them. How does it work? Queen Lyra asked. Captain Morrison will lie on one bed, and Your Majesty will lie on the other, Dr. Park explained. I will connect your blood system so that the captain's life force can flow into you. The process will take about 6 hours. Jake lay down on the first bed. The room was quiet except for the sound of the medical machines. Jake, Dr. Park said, I have to ask you one more time. Are you really sure you want to do this? Jake thought about Emma one last time. He imagined her as a grown woman, exploring the stars and making friends with people from other worlds. He imagined her telling her own children about their grandfather who gave his life to save an alien queen. Start the procedure, doctor, he said. As Dr. Park began connecting the tubes, Jake felt Queen Lyra take his hand. Her skin was cold, but her touch was gentle. Captain Morrison, she said softly, I promise you this. If I survive, I will spend the rest of my life making sure that humans and Zephyrians are friends. Your sacrifice will not be forgotten. Jake smiled at her. Take care of the galaxy, Your Majesty. And if you ever meet my daughter, tell her that her father loved her very much. Procedure began, and Jake felt his life force slowly flowing out of his body and into Queen Lyra. It was the most painful thing he had ever experienced. But he held on, knowing that with each passing minute the Queen was getting stronger and his sacrifice was saving not just her life, but the future of an entire civilization. 6 hours later, the procedure was complete. Queen Lyra sat up in her bed, and for the first time in months her skin glowed with healthy blue light. The void sickness was completely gone from her body, but Jake lay still on the other bed. His eyes were closed and he was breathing very slowly. Dr. Park checked his vital signs and shook her head sadly. He's alive, but barely, she told Queen Lyra. His life force is almost completely gone. I don't think he has much time left. Queen Lyra stood up, feeling stronger than she had in months, but her heart was heavy with sadness. During the procedure she had experienced all of Jake's memories. She had seen his childhood on Earth, his years in space, and most importantly, his love for his daughter Emma. Dr. Park, Queen Lyra said, Jake's sacrifice has given me more than just my life back. When our life forces were connected, I learned something incredible. What did you learn? Dr. Park asked. The cure doesn't have to come from human blood, Queen Lyra said, her voice filled with excitement. It comes from the emotion that drives humans to help others, even when it costs them everything. That emotion creates a special energy that can fight the void sickness. Dr. Park looked confused. I don't understand. Queen Lyra walked to the window and looked out at her city. Dr. Park, what Jake gave me wasn't just his life force. He gave me his love, his hope, and his willingness to sacrifice for others. That's what cured me, and now I have that energy inside me. What does that mean? Asked General Ross, who had been waiting outside the medical room. It means I can share this energy with other Zephyrians, Queen Lyra said. Not the life force that belongs to Jake, but the love and hope he gave me. I can spread that to my people. Queen Lyra placed her hands on Jake's chest. She closed her eyes and concentrated. Slowly, some of the energy that Jake had given her flowed back into him. It wasn't enough to cure him completely, but it was enough to make him stable. Jake's eyes opened and he looked up at Queen Lyra. Your Majesty, did it work? Yes, Captain Morrison, she said with tears in her eyes. It worked better than we could have hoped. Over the next few weeks, Queen Lyra traveled to every Zephyrian world that still had people alive. She shared the energy of love and hope that Jake had given her, and wherever she went, the void sickness began to disappear. But more than just curing the disease, Queen Lyra changed her entire civilization. She abolished the old laws that said Zephyrians were better than other species. She opened Zephyrian space to all peaceful races. She created new schools where Zephyrian children would learn about other cultures and the importance of helping others. The most important change was the Morrison Accords, named after Jake. These were agreements between the Zephyrian Empire and humanity that made them equal partners. Zephyrians would share their advanced technology with humans, and humans would share their knowledge of medicine and their spirit of cooperation. Jake recovered slowly, but he never regained his full strength. The procedure had taken too much from him. However, he lived long enough to see the first joint human Zaffiran exploration ship launched. It was called the Harmony, and its mission was to explore new parts of the galaxy and help other species in need. Captain Pete Brooks, Jake's old friend, became the commander of the Harmony. Before the ship departed, he visited Jake in the hospital on Aval. Jake, Pete said, I wish you could come with us on this mission. Jake smiled weakly. I've done my part, Pete. Now it's time for others to carry on the work. The whole galaxy is talking about what you did, Pete said. Humans are being welcomed everywhere now. People say that if humans are willing to die for strangers, then humans must be the most trustworthy species in space. Jake looked out the window at the crystal city of Aval. The buildings were glowing brightly again, and he could see Zaffiran and human children playing together in the parks. Pete, I need you to do something for me, Jake said. Anything. When you get back to Earth, I want you to visit Emma. Tell her about what happened here. Tell her that her father helped make the galaxy a better place. Pete nodded, tears in his eyes. I will, Jake, I promise. A few months later, Jake passed away peacefully in his sleep. Queen Lyra was with him at the end, holding his hand, just as she had during the procedure. At Jake's funeral, representatives from dozens of species came to pay their respects. The Queen herself gave the main speech, standing before a crowd of thousands in the great square of Aval. Captain Jake Morrison came to us when we were dying, she said, her voice carrying across the square. He could have ignored our calls for help. He could have remembered all the times we had been cruel to his people. Instead, he chose to see us as fellow beings who needed help. She paused and looked up at the statue they had built in Jake's honor. It showed him standing with his hand extended, as if offering help to anyone who needed it. Jake Morrison taught us that true strength comes not from conquest or technology, but from the willingness to sacrifice for others. He showed us that love is more powerful than hate, and hope is stronger than fear. Queen Lyra looked out at the crowd, which included both Zappirans and humans standing side by side. Today we promise that Jake's sacrifice will not be forgotten. We will carry his message to every corner of the galaxy. We will help others as he helped us, and we will make sure that no one ever again has to choose between their life and doing what is right. 20 years later, Commander Emma Morrison stood before her father's statue in the square of Aval. She was now 30 years old and captain of her own exploration ship. Queen Lyra, who had become like a second mother to her, stood beside her. He would be so proud of you, Queen Lyra said softly. Emma looked up at the statue of her father. The inscription at the base read, "Here stood a human who gave everything for those who had given him nothing." You know, Emma said, I used to be angry at him for leaving me. But now I understand. He didn't leave me. He gave me the entire galaxy as my home. Queen Lyra smiled. That's exactly what he would have wanted you to understand. Emma placed a flower at the base of the statue, then turned to Queen Lyra. Are you ready for our next mission? Where are we going this time? Queen Lyra asked. There's a species in the Omega sector that's having trouble with space pirates. They've asked for help. Queen Lyra nodded. Then we go to help them. That's what Jake would have done. As they walked toward their ship, Emma looked back one more time at her father's statue. She had spent her life traveling the galaxy, helping others, and making friends with species that had once been enemies. Everywhere she went, people told stories about the human captain who had saved the Zephyrian Empire, but to Emma, Jake Morrison was not a legend or a hero from stories. He was simply her father who had taught her the most important lesson in the universe, that helping others, no matter who they are or what they've done, is what makes us truly human. The galaxy was now a better place because one human had been willing to give everything to save his former enemies, and that legacy would continue as long as there were people willing to help others, no matter the cost.